The clock ticked. John sat alone. His book lay open, forgotten. The wind howled outside. He glanced at the window. Shadows danced in the moonlight. John shivered. John lived on a hill. His house stood alone, surrounded by trees. The darkness always felt closer here. He often imagined things lurking just beyond the light. Tonight, the feeling was stronger than usual. He tried to read. The words swam before his eyes. He couldn't shake the feeling of unease. Something wasn't right. He could feel it in his bones, a prickling sensation on the back of his neck. John stood up. He walked to the window. The wind howled again, louder this time. The trees swayed violently, their branches like grasping claws. He peered into the darkness, but he could see nothing. John pulled the curtains shut. He tried to ignore the feeling in his gut. It was just the wind, just his imagination. He needed to relax. He turned on the radio, searching for a distraction. Static. He clicked through the stations, but only silence greeted him. He slammed his hand down on the radio in frustration. The sudden noise made him jump. His heart pounded in his chest. He tried to laugh at himself. He was being ridiculous. There was no reason to be scared. He just needed to calm down. He took a deep breath and tried to slow his racing pulse. But the silence in the house was unnerving. He missed the comforting sounds of the radio. The quiet seemed to amplify every creak and groan of the old house. Every rustle of leaves outside sounded like footsteps approaching. The phone rang. John jumped, his heart leaping into his throat. He stared at the phone, his blood turning to ice. Who would call at this hour? It must be close to midnight. He hesitated, his hand hovering over the receiver. The phone rang again, the shrill sound cutting through the silence. John's hand trembled as he reached for the phone. His mind raced. What if it was bad news? What if it was something else? He took a deep breath and picked up the phone. "Hello?" he said, his voice wavering. Silence. He could hear his own heart beating in his ears. He repeated, louder this time, "Hello? Who is this?" A click. Then, a voice, low and raspy, whispered on the other end, "Don't you recognize my voice, John?" A chill ran down John's spine. He didn't recognize the voice, but the voice knew his name. "Who is this?" John demanded, his voice tight with fear. His hand shook so badly he almost dropped the phone. His mind raced, trying to place the voice, but it was no use. It was completely unfamiliar. The voice chuckled, a dry, rasping sound that sent shivers down John's spine. "Don't worry," the voice whispered. "You'll find out soon enough. We have unfinished business, you and I." John's breath caught in his throat. Unfinished business? What was this stranger talking about? He tried to speak, but no words came out. His mouth was dry with terror. "Don't hang up on me, John," the voice hissed, a sudden edge to its tone. "I'm not done with you yet. We have a lot to discuss. Look out your window." John's blood ran cold. He didn't want to look out the window. He didn't want to see what might be out there. But some unseen force compelled him to obey. His hand trembled as he reached for the curtain. He took a deep breath and pulled it aside. The wind howled around him as if trying to stop him from seeing. The yard was empty. There was nothing but the swaying trees and the shadows they cast in the moonlight. John felt a moment of relief, quickly replaced by a surge of confusion. Had the voice been lying? Then he saw it. A single, solitary figure standing at the edge of the woods. It was too far away to make out any details, but John could feel its eyes fixed on him. He felt a cold dread grip his heart. "Do you see me, John?" the voice whispered in his ear. John's hand flew to the window, slamming it shut. He spun around, phone clattering to the floor, searching for the source of the voice. It was impossible. The voice had been right next to him, but the room was empty. Then he saw it, his own reflection in the window. But it wasn't his reflection staring back at him. The face was wrong, twisted into a grotesque mockery of his own features. A wide, unnatural grin stretched across its face, and its eyes were filled with a malevolent glee. The figure in the window raised its hand, its long, bony fingers pressing against the glass. John screamed, stumbling back in terror. The face in the window mimicked his scream, a silent, distorted echo of his fear. John didn't wait to see more. He turned and fled, running blindly into the night. He didn't know where he was going, but he knew one thing. He had to get away from that house. He had to get away from the thing that had called him.